Batangas State University. Batangas State University, a 3-star university listed among the top universities by the QS Stars rating. The first and only state university in the country with engineering and IT programs accredited by the US-based Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, or ABET. A National Center of Excellence in Electronics Engineering and National Center of Development in Mechanical Engineering and Electrical Engineering. A research and learning hub with 15 research and development centers and maker spaces with state-of-the-art equipment and laboratory facilities. A consistent top-performing school in engineering licensure examinations. Provider of emerging academic programs in engineering and technology in order to produce competent workforce for industries in a developing economy. Endorsed by the Regional Development Council as CALABARZON's Center for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Environment Research and Center for Technology Business Incubation and Development. Home to the South Luzon Hub for Technopreneurship and Innovation. Breeding ground of innovators, technopreneurs, startups, and knowledge creators that provide engineering and technology solutions to social problems. A knowledge-based institution that forwards innovation programs resulting to the development of new products and technologies that satisfy customer requirements and respond to the needs of the industry and the general society. All of these put Batangas State University at a prime position to expand its mandates and become a key national player in knowledge creation and innovation. This is concretized by the establishment of the Knowledge, Innovation, and Science Technology Park. On May 22, 2020, President Rodrigo R Duterte signed Proclamation No. 947 designating the BatStateU KIST Park as a special economic zone. This makes it the first PEZA-registered KIST Park in the country. As an IT park co-located in a thriving university, the BatStateU KIST Park is a prime destination for locator companies and tech startups to foster dynamic collaboration among universities, multinational companies, and government agencies. PEZA-registered enterprises will benefit from the high-value intellectual capital and physical resources of Batangas State University, including tax holidays and other non-fiscal benefits from operating within this newest ecozone in the country. It is located at the heart of CALABARZON, the second largest economic region in the Philippines that hosts a variety of emerging industries. The BatStateU KIST Park facilities will include Technology Hub, Design and Innovation Building, Information Technology Centrum, Data Center, Convention Center, and a KIST Hotel. Its accessibility, buoyed by the booming Batangas economy and the warm hospitality of the Batangueños, make it an ideal home to business locators and enterprises. The facilities in the newly constructed 5-story BatStateU Science, Technology, Engineering, and Environment Research Hub are already available for locators. The research centers and the locator spaces in the Steer Hub synergize a collaborative working environment for knowledge sharing among researchers, startups, and industry locators. These include Manufacturing Research Center, Electronics Research Center, ICT Research Center, Alternative Energy Research Center, and the Center for Technopreneurship and Innovation. As a technology business incubator, the Center for Technopreneurship and Innovation hosts challenge labs, ideation and incubation programs, design thinking workshops, hackathons, business model pitching competitions, and other technovation activities that will jumpstart innovative products and technology solutions for customers and industry needs. A dynamic partner in regional development, Batangas State University will continue to strengthen industry academic partnerships generate new knowledge, and produce innovative solutions to real-world problems. Batangas State University expands its mandate to actively participate in nation building as a premier national university that develops leaders in a knowledge-based economy by leading innovations and transforming lives.
Batangas State University is a Level 4 state university located in CALABARZON. It is recognized by CHED as a Center of Excellence in Electronics Engineering and Centers of Development in Mechanical Engineering and Electrical Engineering. As such, BatStateU is one of the leading regional and national producers of engineers. It continues to build its legacy in engineering education across its 21 bachelor's programs and 23 graduate degrees. Batangas State University continually steps up to 3 big challenges to higher education institutions to produce engineering graduates that become expert engineers of the world with strong capabilities and peak expertise that engender interdisciplinary technological breakthroughs that are able to integrate, synthesize, operate, and manage relationships across technological and organizational boundaries, and are ready to assume the role of a change agent prepared to provide the creativity, innovation, and leadership needed to guide research and industry to future success. Pursuant to the Board of Regents Resolution Number 134 made in December 2020, the Center for Innovation in Engineering Education was established as the official university arm in upholding engineering education standards. The CIEE's mandate of engineering education advancement and excellence encompasses the following: providing support to engineering curriculum development and the assessment of graduate attributes through continuous quality improvement, mentoring new engineering educators, recognizing teaching excellence and awarding of professorial chairs, and spearheading research in engineering education, ultimately setting the direction for the College of Engineering. The CIEE aims to become instrumental for the College of Engineering to serve as a benchmark for support to other higher education institutions. It also aims to carry out inter-organizational functions in building academe-industry linkages and fostering sustainability. These include partnership development and management, global engagement, sustainable resource generation, scouting of grants, donation and endowment, as well as foundation building. The CIEE exists to drive professional growth through conferences, technical exhibitions and job fairs, as well as the publication of journals, magazines and newsletters, IEC materials, and digital content. The Science, Technology, Engineering, and Environment Research Hub, or STEER Hub, located in BatStateU Alangilan, is home to the CIEE. Its 6 neighboring research centers at the STEER Hub are engaged in high-level local and international research collaboratives in various technological fields, all geared towards specific solutions to achieve national research agenda and global SDGs. A local leader in this initiative, the CIEE is advised by chairs and directors of associations and well-established centers of engineering education in the US and Asia, as well as seasoned industry leaders, researchers, and academicians in the country. With Batangas State University leading innovations in transforming lives, the CREE is its driving force in fueling ingenuity and leadership in engineering education.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Batangas State University welcomes all the viewers, especially engineering students, faculty, and alumni. Today we celebrate World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development, WED 2022. World Engineering Day is an official international day proclaimed in 2019 by UNESCO, and is an opportunity to celebrate engineering and the contribution of the world's engineers for a better sustainable world by addressing the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The global theme, Build Back Wiser, Engineer the Future, revolves around engineering as a leading role in the achievement of socioeconomic and environmental objectives. Here at Batangas State University, we're celebrating alongside WFEO, the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, under the auspices of UNESCO. Our three-day event is an offshoot of the global theme, focusing specifically on sustainable development, innovation, and futures thinking. Engineering Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow is brought to you by the BatStateU CIEE, the Center for Innovation in Engineering Education. I am your host, Engineer Junix Kaalim for Education and Partnership at the Center. To make this opening official, may I welcome our tireless University President to deliver his remarks, Dr. Tirso A. Ronquillo.
The Chair of the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation and Futures Thinking, Senate of the Philippines, Honorable Senator Pia S. Cayetano. The President of the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, Professor Dr. Gonke. The Managing Partner of Tollwood Venture Capital and Founder, Philippine Development Foundation, Dr. Diosdado P. Banatao. Professor, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, National University of Kaohsiung, Taiwan, Dr. Xing Lung Lien. The Chief Futurist and Vice President, Philippine Futures Thinking Society, Professor Sherman O. Cruz. The Director of the Batangas State University Center for Innovations in Engineering Education, Associate Professor Divina Gracia D. Ronquillo. Industry partners, presidents and administrators of all higher education institutions, engineering faculty members, alumni engineers, engineering students, and all secondary students who aspire to become engineers from the Philippines and all over the world, welcome to Batangas State University as we celebrate the World Engineering Day 2022 with the theme, Engineering Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. The World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development, an official international day proclaimed in 2019 by UNESCO, is an opportunity to celebrate engineering and the contribution of the world's engineers for a better and sustainable world by addressing the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Bearing the theme Build Back Wiser, Engineering the Future, the UNESCO World Engineering Day on March 4, 2022 is centered on engineering and its role in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals across socioeconomic and environmental dimensions. Since March 2020, Batangas State University celebrates World Engineering Day together with UNESCO through its Center for Innovation in Engineering Education. The university recognizes that engineering education is key to achieving sustainable development goals. Thus, it continues to expand its mandate through strategic partnerships with the industries, academic institutions, private sector, and the government. Through the advancement of the SDGs in academics, research, community service, and management of resources, Batangas State University is committed to building a sustainable world for future generations. This year's event includes messages and talks from leaders, innovators, and champions, local and abroad, each serving as a conduit to continue the conversation on engineering innovation, Futures Thinking and Sustainable Development Goals Attainment. The program also includes an exhibition of projects led by engineering students of the university in celebration of the World Engineering Day. Batangas State University welcomes students, faculty, and alumni, as well as industry and government partners to be part of the World Engineering Day 2022 as an opportunity to collectively celebrate engineering. We are one with UNESCO, World Federation of Engineering Organizations, in celebrating the World Engineering Day with our own team, Engineering Today for Sustainable Tomorrow. Happy World Engineers Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Dr. Tirso A. Ronquillo. We look up to you and your leadership. In September 2019, the Philippines jumped on board to the global collective effort to attain sustainability. A committee was formed in the 18th Congress to tackle all matters relating to the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the assessment of the country's performance in its attainment through policies, strategies, and actions for the development of desirable futures by using a multidisciplinary approach in illuminating possibilities, outlining policy choices, and assessing alternatives. To provide us with her message of inspiration, let me welcome the chairperson of the Philippine Senate Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation, and Futures Thinking, Senator Pia S. Cayetano.
Hello and happy World Engineering Day to everyone. I am pleased to be invited to join you today and talk to you about the committee I chair, the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation, and Futures Thinking. How does this relate to engineering? You know, engineers play a unique and crucial role in achieving our SDGs, especially in fostering innovation and in addressing global challenges such as climate change, environmental degradation, rapid population growth, and scarcity of resources. So we need to come up with long-term, future-proof solutions to these sustainability issues. That is part of the work that we do in the committee, and we need resource persons such as young people like you to help us do our work. So in Congress, we are tasked to pass legislation that addresses the needs of the time, and that is precisely why for the first time ever in the history of the Philippines, we have a Senate Committee on SDGs, Innovation, and Futures Thinking. This was put up precisely so that we can track where we are with the SDGs, we can prepare for various futures, and we can shift our mindset to futures thinking as major policy reform. Futures thinkers tell us that we live in a VUCA world. What's a VUCA world? It is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, just as we have experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. So how do we survive and thrive in a VUCA world? Through futures thinking. And futures thinking is defined by Prosser and Basra as an avenue for different sectors to explore many possible futures using strategic foresight to help make informed decisions and to prepare for all possibilities and identify unforeseen opportunities. So I suppose as engineers, you're tasked to look at the science, you're tasked to expect certain outcomes, but you also should be prepared for these outcomes, whatever they are. So just to let you know what we've done in the committee, it has been my initiative for the past few years to provide funding to create a Futures Thinking Office in the Department of Education. To also create a subcommittee on SDGs in NEDA, the National Economic and Development Authority, and a Futures Thinking Office in the Department of Health, an SDG Innovation and Futures Thinking Office in the Department of Science and Technology, research funding for SDGs in various agencies, research for the futures of food and artificial intelligence in various state universities and colleges, and capacity building for local government officials and national government employees in the Development Academy of the Philippines. So these we deem very important because you would know how important research is. I hope the young students would include research as part of your plans for the future. What is the role of engineers in achieving the SDGs and building a better future? Well, you have a huge role. You have the training, you will get the certification, the accreditation that we need in our country for that kind of professionalism to really build a better nation for all of us in all different fields of engineering. We need engineers such as yourself to participate in and contribute to building this to be a better and sustainable future for all of us. Now, I want to talk about something that's very close to my heart, women in engineering, or women in STEM. It's the month of March. The month of March is Women's Month, and women in engineering, women in STEM is very important. We are also in our committee studying the future of work, and we need to understand what is the future going to be like for women in STEM, women in engineering. Well, studies show in the next 2 decades, automation will replace 11% of the female workforce. And in Asian nations could lose more than 80% of their garment, textile, and apparel manufacturing jobs. So this goes to show that while technological advancement make our lives easier, they could negatively affect women's livelihood. And knowing this should now be our reason to prepare for that kind of future. How do you do it? Again, by acknowledging this very serious possible future, and by preparing for it, by providing more training, by giving more women opportunities to upskill, and to really improving women's access to the internet and other digital tools, and so on and so forth. Which brings me to the next topic I want to discuss, which is engineering and the fourth industrial revolution. So whether you're a male or a female, you will be affected by this fourth industrial revolution. This is characterized by the rise of automation, artificial intelligence, the gig economy, and various demographic and social changes. According to the Institute for the Future, 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 have not even been created yet. And according to the World Economic Forum, only 5% of present jobs will be eliminated. Therefore, you don't have to panic because even though 85% of jobs in 2030 have not been created, only 5% of these present jobs will be eliminated. That simply means that you need to upskill. That is what the data shows us. You need to upskill. So whether you're male, female, upskilling is important. And learners need to acquire both the hard skill, which is of course digital literacy, robotics, coding, but also the soft skills, which is leadership, adaptability, creativity, and empathy. And don't forget the 4 C's: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. So let me end by saying that the future is bright, but we need to be prepared. We need to reinvent the way we live. We need to discover better and easier ways to live sustainably so that our future, your future, the future of your children is something to look forward to. So on that note, as I've said, preparation is key, and that starts in your university. God bless you, and don't ever give up in trying to be the best, to trying to explore different solutions to the challenges that face you. God bless.
Thank you once again for supporting this cause, Senator Pia S. Cayetano. It is our pleasure to have you at Batangas State University's celebration of WED 2022. We are especially honored to present our keynote speaker. With UNESCO Engineering Report 2021 released in March last year, we learned from him the true reflection of the continuing role of engineering education in the attainment of the SDGs. He was very generous to have graced our international conference last November and is now here with us again. The Executive Director of the Chinese Institute for the New Generation Artificial Intelligence Development Strategies and the Chairman of the Academic Committee of Nankai University, it is our pleasure to welcome the President of the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, Professor Dr. Gong Ke.
Dear colleagues and friends, the third World Engineering Day, March 4th, is coming right up. WFEO has proposed to establish such a World Engineering Day for celebrating engineering achievements and mobilizing engineers across the world to accelerate the actions of implementing the SDGs. This proposal was officially adopted by UNESCO in 2019. In spite of the pandemic, the World Engineering Day has been celebrated by engineering organizations, academies, industrial companies, civil societies, as well as governments, with strong support by United Nations bodies. Especially at last year's World Engineering Day, we have witnessed the launch of the second UNESCO Engineering Report, which is a milestone report in the global development of engineering. Over 2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, we have witnessed the engineering approaches and the key technologies help to combat against COVID-19, as well as in maintaining productions and services. Meanwhile, we strongly realize that the world should build back better and wiser to accelerate the transformation to a sustainable future, in which engineers have a crucial role to play. This is why the theme of this year's World Engineering Day is set as Build Back Wiser, Engineering the Future. To build back wiser, the foremost consideration is to leveraging science, technology, and engineering in a more open, innovative, and responsible way. For all engineering practitioners, it is required to better master the necessary knowledge and skills for promoting sustainable development, especially to make use of digital technologies such as big data, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things to meet the pressing global challenges, such as the code red alarm of climate change, increasing natural and man-made disasters, and different forms of inequalities. In particular, we need to engage with more young people, women and girls, so that they are fully motivated to be part of this innovative profession. We started this year's celebration with the World Engineering Day Hackathon. More than 120 student teams from 24 countries participated in these global competitions. They have submitted various innovative engineering solutions to real-world problems. It is exciting to see so many young people engage themselves in an attempt to develop enabling engineering for sustainable development goals. To build back wiser, the global partnership and collaboration of engineering, industry, and governments are of paramount importance. On March 4th, we will host a 24-hour global live broadcast to celebrate this festival moment, to showcase excellent engineering practices in implementing SDGs in different parts of the globe, to provide opportunities for all stakeholders to exchange their experiences and ideas, to learn from each other, and to cooperate with each other. We welcome the international community to celebrate the World Engineering Day with us together and to leverage the systematic wisdom of science, technology, and engineering to work collectively for Build Back Wiser and to shape a more sustainable future of the humankind and the Earth.
Our sincerest thanks to our colleagues at BFEO, especially to the President, Professor Dr. Donke. Our next speaker is one of the most credible speakers for innovation. A farmer's son from Igig, Cagayan Valley, He grew up without electricity and went barefoot to school every day. After graduating from Mapua Institute of Technology, he had the opportunity to study at the University of Washington and work in the United States. In these years, he helped design the Boeing 747 and became licensed as a pilot. He departed to pursue an MS in electrical engineering and computer science at Stanford. Shortly after graduation, he joined the Homebrew Computer Club, where he met engineers and lecturers such as Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, later on pioneering two of the fundamental technologies featured in today's personal computers, the PC chipset and the graphics acceleration architecture. He then later built three technology startups, Mostron, S3, and Chips and Technologies. S3 grew to become the world's third most lucrative firm in 1993, and Chips and Technologies he sold to Intel in 1996. Now the managing partner of Tollwood Venture Capital, a venture capital company focusing on semiconductor technologies for computer, communication, and consumer platforms, he is also chairman of his own foundation, the Philippine Development Foundation, or PhilDev, which brings together government, academia, and business to utilize science and technology for Philippine economic development. Passing the torch of innovation, it is our pleasure to welcome one of Silicon Valley's best minds, world-class Filipino inventor, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Diosdado Dado P. Banatao.
For quite a few years now, we established a foundation called PhilDev to work with the Philippine government and industry to start the process of understanding and implementing solutions to economic growth in the Philippines. PhilDev takes the view that economic growth is a necessity, if not sufficient, condition for broader and inclusive development, enlarging the ability of individuals to be productive and creative. While growth is not an end by itself, it makes it possible to achieve other important objectives of individuals and societies. It can spare an entire population from poverty and drudgery. Nothing else has. It also creates resources to support education, healthcare, infrastructure building, and overall quality of life. In recent years, we have seen the emergence of interest in innovation and entrepreneurship in developing countries, including the Philippines. Presidents and leaders of industry use it as a call for action, as if everyone knows how and why it works and why it matters. It is assumed that the role of innovation and entrepreneurship is to enable rapid and sustainable economic growth in the country. Clearly, the problem of economic development is difficult to solve. Research has shown that in any economy, sustained high growth happens due to a number of common attributes such as a functioning market system, high levels of saving by the population, public and private sector investment, resource mobility, innovation in science and technology, and political leadership and their ability to deploy the right infrastructure and business policies. Additionally, the infrastructure for innovation in science and technology assumes an educational system in primary and secondary levels that promotes a STEM culture, and at college and university levels, a globally competitive practice of research and development focused on society's needs. Once growth is achieved, Sustaining it over such a long period requires a strong leadership in government. Successful cases of leadership in government share a further characteristic, and that is an increasingly capable, credible, and effective government. It requires a strong commitment pursued with patience, perseverance, and pragmatism. However, government is not only the cause of growth. That role falls to the private sector and their ability to innovate and invest, and entrepreneurs responding to market needs. But in the long run, it is the resources of the global economy that stand out as the driving forces in sustaining high growth in a developing economy, and these come in three parts: global market demand, technology-based innovation and entrepreneurship, and foreign direct investments. In the case of global market demand, it is important to note that in poor developing countries, the size of the global economy is huge in comparison, and at the right cost and prices, global market demand is unlimited. It is not only possible now, but more importantly, easier to enter the global market because the world economy is open and integrated. Based on research, it is accepted that once the challenging of identifying industries in which the country can invest in, acquiring a comparative advantage is met, growth in exports will not be constrained by demand, and growth in economy can occur at a rate determined by savings and investments. We need to be aware, however, that in a country like the Philippines that has a high percentage of poor people, savings alone does not promote inclusive development. This is because invested savings come from those that have the financial resources, the rich, resulting in the rich getting richer and the poor are still poor. The only known solution to this is innovation and entrepreneurship, where knowledge in innovation is valued, in most cases, more than money, and the practice of entrepreneurship through fair equity distribution between entrepreneurs, investors, and employees. These investments in the early stages will go into the export sector, which can grow at rates high enough to pull the economy along. The growth of exports can set in motion a process of sustained growth which is transmitted to the whole economy and could not be achieved by relying on domestic demand alone. However, mature global markets rely on proven and reliable practices that define property rights, enforce contracts, fair prices, and informational transparency between buyers and sellers. These policy foundations of sustained high growth create an environment for high levels of investment, job creation, competition, resource mobility, social protections, equity, and inclusiveness. The second resource for high growth is innovation and entrepreneurship based on technology. It is very important and necessary that the value of technology innovation is translated to equity and fair ownership in enterprise building. Local economies cannot compete globally on technology innovation, have slow growth, and stay at the developing status. The third reason for high growth is foreign direct investments, or investments beyond the capacity of the local economy to save. It is especially important that it brings in more technology, market knowledge, and access to global markets. In short, FDIs are the conduit for growing economies to import in the ideas, technologies, and market know-how. Foreign education is not necessarily a resource, but is valuable on its own in the sense that it often creates lasting international networks. Since learning is faster than inventing, fast learners can rapidly gain ground on leading economies. These proven principles for economic growth are the foundation of PhilDev's vision: eradication of poverty through sustainable high economic growth based on inclusive innovation. Design, innovation, entrepreneurship, and opportunities. Within the last few years in the US and other countries, there has been a movement in transforming engineering education beyond theoretical skills to include experiential design. It is no longer enough to provide our future engineering leaders with technical knowledge. They must also learn to work in the multidisciplinary teams, how to iterate designs rapidly, how to manufacture sustainably, and how to address global market needs. Students must be able to solve problems characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. They need new toolkits to allow them to frame and then reframe the problem they are trying to solve. Infusing design culture in faculty and students will reinvent existing programs that are overly focused on analysis and into design, to correct shortcomings in the skills needed to operate in the concrete realm of making things, and to offer students experiential learning alongside theory. The design process itself induces critical thinking, which is the most important asset in designing successful products. Industry benefits tremendously through productivity and efficiency in the design process, even for new college graduates. The design process iterates between analysis and synthesis work, between working in the concrete world and in the abstract world. It starts in the concrete world with observation or immersing oneself in the context of the problem to be solved, and learning from both quantitative and qualitative data about the situation. It then moves into the abstract space to extract insights from the messy data of the observation phase. That is why data science is a major focus today. This exposes questions such as what's important, what's new. The insights and imperatives identified are then carried into the ideas phase on the how side of the model, where teams learn how to separate the act of diverging from that of converging, and how to imagine a variety of alternative ideas. Finally, the model returns to the concrete space with actual prototyping of solutions and experimentation to get feedback and learn more insights into the proposed solution before exploring alternatives. The model is described divergence to convergence, or iteration of alternative ideas is far from linear. The prototyping itself is linear and is considered a short loop, but the iterative process as a whole is a long loop. Within the long loop, teams must pay attention to where they are in the cycle, to step back from solutions and ask what problem they are solving, to ensure connection to objectives, and to be willing to put something unfinished in front of others to learn. It goes without saying that design and innovation is not undertaken by individuals working on their own. Product development in industry is always undertaken by a cross-functional team representing research and development, product marketing, and minor participation from operations, sales, and sometimes management. In Silicon Valley, for example, during the design process, inserted in the schedule are milestone design reviews where the team invites top designers and specific technical experts within the company to critique specific approaches to the design and the design itself and the resulting viability and efficiency of the design. Valuable inputs are fed back to the design process. In looking at the big picture of innovation, good design practice is a necessity in the same way that innovation is a necessity for entrepreneurship. Clearly, there is a need for discussion among stakeholders from academia, industry, government, private organization, and experts, all of us, thinking about the need for innovation and entrepreneurship as the foundation for our country's economic development. Innovation creates the path to what is new and necessary to become better integrated into a world of accelerated changes, complex, competitive, open, and globalized. Strategic planning for innovation must therefore consider the trends evolving from throughout the world, because sooner or later these tend to impose themselves everywhere as true disruptions. With these goals, innovation and entrepreneurship are two of the most impactful tools for economic development. Only then will we be able to share in the true value and benefits of innovation and entrepreneurship. And not to forget, this is all based on the foundation of scientists and engineers innovating and taking risks as entrepreneurs. Research has shown that the only way for a developing economy to sustain high rate of growth and to have sustainable growth that benefits the lower economic sectors of society is through science and engineering education and innovation, enabling knowledge-based entrepreneurship from the ranks of all, regardless of economic status. Most of these technology-based startups also have the ability to become large enterprises over time. This closed-loop system is typically characterized by fast growth, competitive, and populated by risk-taking entrepreneurs and investors. This characteristic of risk-taking by entrepreneurs is what makes the strategy naturally inclusive. In this process, inclusiveness is defined as the meeting of minds. To summarize these roles: 1. Government creates the right infrastructures and business policies. 2. Academe produces manpower expertise through engineering education and research institutes creating technologies. And 3. Industry taking the risk and provides the necessary investments to innovate and create products. When successful, extremely high revenues and corporate value is achieved, contributing to high levels of investments and employment. This closed-loop system promotes sustainable high economic growth, which is the only known solution to eradicate poverty. Conclusively, enrichment of the poor did not come from charity, and instead from
Speaker has visited Batangas State University in 2018 in response to the call to converge as an ASEAN community in managing disaster risk and climate change for resilience. His research interests include environmental nanotechnology, renewable energy policy, and groundwater remediation. He received his PhD in environmental engineering at Lehigh University, USA, and is a professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the National University of Kaohsiung, NUK, Taiwan. He is a vice president at the NUK, dean of the School of Imagination for Future, and director of New Energy and Electricity Development Center. Dr. Lien is in charge of the SDG Inside initiative to promote SDGs embedded into research, education, institutional operations, and external partnership at the NUK. He has published more than 30 high-quality papers and over 3,800 citations in Google Scholar. Here to speak about embedding the SDGs into the university curriculum, it is our honor to welcome Professor Dr. Xinglong Lien.
Hello everyone, my name is Xinglong Lien. I'm from National University of Kaohsiung. It is my privilege to give a talk in this special conference organized by Batangas University Center for Innovation of Engineering Education to celebrate the World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. This is the title of my presentation, Embedding the SDGs into the University Curriculum, Examples of Higher Education in Taiwan. Again, my name is Xinglong Lien. I'm from National University of Kaohsiung. And this is the outline of my presentation. First, I would like to introduce the relationship between Batangas University and my university, National University of Kaohsiung. And secondly, I would like to introduce a little bit about the NUK. And the third things I would like to answer 3 key questions that related to this topic. And finally, I will give a conclusions for today's talk. And on the right-hand side, you can see these figures. I think it is very useful, and you actually can find all the detailed information from getting started with the SDGs in universities. This is the guideline for the universities to implement SDGs. And from these figures, I think it's important to let us know the relationship between SDGs and the university. SDG can help university, and at the same time, university can help the SDG. On the left-hand side, for example, in my university, we gain the benefit from applying the SDG into my university to to set up a framework for understanding and demonstrating the impact of what we have done. And also it creates a new funding streams, which is exactly happening in Taiwan. On the right-hand side, you can see that universities can provide the knowledge, innovations, and the solutions to the SDGs, which is the best things that university can do. So that is the very good relationship between SDG and the university. And that is why our university spent a lot of efforts to apply the SDGs in our university. And these figures, I would like to share you a little bit history about the Batangas University and the National University of Kaohsiung. As you can see right here, this photo was taken in 2017. You can see the presence of the Batangas University right here. At that time, presence of Batangas State University was invited to my university and signed MOU for both of university. And on the bottom of these photos, you can see this one was taken in 2018, which is the photo show that I attend a conference in Batangas State University and took this photo. I think this we have a very close tie in between Batangas State University and our university. And right now I'm staying in Kaohsiung, which is located in south part of Taiwan. And this is the Batangas State University. So you can see we are very close to each other. In these slides, I would like to give you a brief idea about the size, the features of the National University of Kaohsiung. The students, we have roughly around 5,500 students and 250 faculty and 250 faculties in National University of Kaohsiung. The total courses that we offer for each semester is around 1,200 courses. We have 5 colleges, including College of Humanities and the Social Science, College of Law, College of Management, College of Science, College of Engineering, and we also have the General Education Center. So you can see our university is a comprehensive university in Taiwan. 3 key questions I'm trying to answer in today's talk, including why it is important that we push forward with the integration of the SDGs into the university setting. The second question is what tangible procedures are executable at the faculty and the management level and how we would suggest they be programmed. The last one is how have other benchmark universities and educational institutions approaches this same endeavor. I will actually spend most of my time in this to try to answer the second question. The first question, why it is important that we push forward with the integration of the SDG into the university setting. I think the answer from the whole pictures of our global system is the climate change. And we all know that the climate change caused the increase of the global temperature is a real things happening right now happening right now on Earth. So if you want to control our temperature within 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, the only things that we can do is we have to stop the greenhouse gas emission completely somewhere around year 2050, based on the science, the scientific evidence. And I would say this is the key issue and the most important things that we have to keep in mind. In order to do that, we have to apply all the method, all the tools that we have to control our temperature. from the energy supply sectors, from the transportation sectors, buildings, industrial sectors, and the new technology, land used sectors, all the different sectors. We have to work together using all the technologies, all the tools that we have to control our temperature. Otherwise, if we do nothing, then the temperature will increase or rise to 3.6 degrees Celsius, which is almost unacceptable to our vulnerable ecosystem and our Earth. So there are many things here you can see related to the engineering background. For example, to develop a new technology for the carbon removal, and to work hard on the energy efficiency, to increase the energy efficiency from different perspectives. For example, from the transportation system, from the building system, something like that. And that is also the same reason that United Nations, they proposed the SDG, we call the Sustainable Development Goals, for all the nations in the world to work together for the better future. And I'm not getting into the detail for the 17 different goals, but I will mention some of them related to the topic in today's talk, and also related to the things in my university, in our university. And this is the reference information for every one of you. If you are interested about what happened with these 17 different goals, you can refer to the annual reports. And this is the things that you can find out from the internet. This slide actually also tells that the SDG is not only it's applied almost everywhere, not only in the university level, but also in the research communities. So, for example, the Elsevier, they published these reports related to all the papers that are published in this publisher. The key findings that they released is here. Research can serve as a catalyst for progress on the SDGs. Again, I'm not getting into the detail, but I think there are many important, there are some key messages that we have to keep in mind. This is the one that we have to know, is that all the 17 SDGs are interconnected. So when we talk about the SDGs, it is not the individual goals, but actually they are interconnected to each other. So the research actually can help to close the gap between the science, policy, and the societies. And again, if you are interested in this document, you can just check online and find this report. And another big driving force, at least especially in Taiwan, is the ranking system. The THE ranking, the World University Ranking, which is based on the SDGs that universities, what universities did in these specific topics. So in Taiwan, many universities will do a lot of efforts to improve the SDG related things in their university in order to get a better ranking in these World University rankings. I think this is not a bad thing, because this is a driving force for the university to reallocate their resources to doing the SDGs, which is doing good. And the second question right here is, what tangible procedures are executable at the faculty and the management levels, and how we would suggest that they be programmed? I think the simple answer right here is to create a SDGs embedded system, and this is exactly what we did in National University of Kaohsiung. Three things that we can do, and I think this is also the same things that every one of you would like to do, can follow the same procedures. The first one is to provide the infrastructure, which belongs to the management level. This means universities has to establish internet accessible platform to collect the data. I will show you what kind of the platform we have to collect the data. And the second thing is, of course, we have the infrastructure, hardware, then we need to have the software. This is also the management level have to do. Two things. The first is to provide the cross curriculums. I mean, to let faculty know that the provided cross curriculum is an obligation of all the faculties. I call this is the university policy. And the second thing is to provide a general SDG guidelines to the faculties so that they can follow how to do and what to do. The last things here is the implementation, which is for the faculty level. Three things right here. The first one is required, which means all the teachers have to complete the online syllabus before the beginning of the semester. And the teachers are encouraged to determine whether the courses contents of their courses is related to the SDGs using the information from their syllabus, their courses title, description, and so on. And the teachers then can go through the SDG inventory system, which is the system that we develop to assign the SDG through this inventory system, and then we can start to collect the data. And you can see right here, only the first things is required. The second and third things is not required, it's optional. So faculties can feel free to provide their courses information related to the SDG. And that is the things that we did and we are doing right now. So this is the inventory of the SDG integration into the university curriculum. We use the system that we already have. We call the courses catalog search platform. This is the original system we have to ask universities faculties to put their syllabus into this platform for the students to understand the courses, to understand each courses, what kind of the course, what kind of the teaching material will be covered in that kind of courses and so on. So we already have this system. And the next things we have to do is to embed the SDG into the courses curriculums. So this is in Chinese characters, but in general you can see on the top of these figures is on the top of these photos is the syllabus of a specific course. On the bottom right here is the 17 SDGs. So the faculties, the teachers will determine which SDGs related to their courses. And this is the first level of this embedding system. And then we provide a second level, which is the competency level for the faculties to choose. And they can decide not to choose anyone, or they choose something related to their courses. And for this second level, we actually refer to the curriculum framework for the sustainable development goals published by the Commonwealth from the Great British. Because we established this inventory system by embedding the SDG into the system, we can start to collect the data. And after we collect the data, we can analyze the data. And this is one of the results that we can get from the data. This is the spectrum chart of the SDG diversities of all the SDG related courses in the college level in our university. And you can see right here is 5 different colleges and also the general education. For each column, you can see from left-hand side to the right-hand side is SDG 1 to SDG 17. And let's take a look at the College of Engineering right here. you can see for the College of Engineering, most of the courses related to the SDG 4, SDG 6, SDG 6, which is the clean water and the sanitation, SDG 7, clean and affordable energy, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, SDG 9, industrial innovation and infrastructure, SDG 11, sustainable city, SDG 13 is climate action. Those are the major SDGs related to the courses offered by the College of Engineering. And it's quite related to the specific attitudes of the College of Engineering. And you can see the different patterns from different colleges. And here, I would like to draw your attention is the SDG 1, which is the no poverty. And the things that I would like to point out that these things is I would say this is a very good example to see something that we never know before until we get this data. As you can see right here, many faculties, they offer the courses related to the SDG 1 in College of Law and the College of Management. Those are the information we never know before. But because we can collect the information from this system, and we realize that these two colleges have many faculties, they emphasize on the same SDGs. So if we want to do something we call the interdisciplinary research or interdisciplinary teaching, then I mean, especially related to the SDG 1, then we will know how to pinpoint the faculties. That means College of Law and the College of Management, the faculty from these two colleges, they probably can form a very solid teams to work on the SDG 1. Those kind of information are the information we never know before until we get these results. And this is the same, this is the results from the same data setting, from the same data set, but we present in a different way. And this is the spectrum chart of SDGs diversity for all the SDG related courses in the university level. So this is the university level. So let's take a look at College of Engineering. You can see right here, SDG 9 is pretty much the characteristics SDG related to the College of Engineering, which is the industrial innovation and the infrastructure. For the College of Management, SDG 8, economic growth, decent work. College of Law is SDG 16. It's quite reasonable. But the most significant things from these figures is the empty space right here. There are so many empty space right here, which means those are we call the bright spots, which is the SDG that we almost offer very little courses related to the bright spots. So I will say the reason, if I give a simple answers for the things happen here, is the resource. The university has limited resource. So how you allocate your resource into certain SDGs is the things that management level need to work on in order to emphasize the strength parts of your university or the future characteristics of your university. And that the reason right here, again, I would like to say is because of the limitation of the resource in the university. So the factors that we found from our universities, the system is the curriculum of our university mainly emphasized on SDG 3, 4, 8, 9, and 16. That's the fact. And certain SDG are clearly aligned with the expertise of specific departments in our university. But we also found that even if a department provides a large number of courses related to the specific SDG in the university, it does not necessarily ensure that the department is well prepared for that particular SDG. The last factors that we found is the general education actually play a very important role. The benefit we found from this system is that the courses inventory system is capable of facilitating the teachers to better understanding how their teaching material associated with the SDG and promote their awareness of SDG. I think this is really an important benefit we can gain from this inventory system. And the second things we gained from the system is these metrics give an indications of area covered and also point the blind spots. And the last things I would like to say it is also very, very valuable is the SDG courses inventory offer the academic administration useful information in order to better understanding the interdisciplinary capacity and the internal collaboration opportunity in the universities. So you will get to better understand your university, the capacity, the research capacity, the teaching capacity. The last question that I'm trying to answer here is, how have other benchmark university and educational university approaches this same endeavor? And I will say the simple answer is that the university has to top-down policy and also need to from the bottom up, which means the university provided the university policy for the faculties to follow, and the faculty can implement the things that based on the university policy. So from top down and bottom up to meet together and work things better. And a couple of examples that I try to share with everyone here. This is the examples from the University of Auckland. They use the SDG keywords to mapping their research, to mapping their courses. And again, you can find this document on time. I'm not get into the detail. Same ideas that apply to the University of Toronto. Again, you can see on the top right here is the research. On the bottom here is the teaching. Pretty much the same idea, but the different university work in different way. And the last one is another example that applies in the universities in Taiwan. We call that is the National Tsinghua University. They did really a good job. They encourage their universities faculties to report the specific SDG which are related to their expertise. So you can see right here, the SDG 9 is the most popular one in this university, and also SDG 4, 3, and so on. You can see from here, and those are the things that different university can do. The last two slides I would like to finish very quickly. This one is the example that I would like to let everyone know that how we can apply this kind of system to maximize the university's capacity of teaching and research. I use the circular economy as an example. Circular economy requires multiple discipline academic teams. So if you want to form academic teams to work on the circular economy, then you can think about this. SDG 8, which is the economic growth. So if you want to find faculties related to this topic, College of Management is probably will be the best college that you can search for. For the SDG 12, which is the responsible consumption and the responsible production, then College of Engineering may be a very good choice. By doing so, we will expect to see the CO2 reduction, which is related to the climate action SDG 13. Then you probably can find some of the best candidates from the College of Science to form the teams like this. So in conclusion, I will say that the first thing is to establish the system. And from this system, you will get better understanding of your institution through the evidence-based approach. And I believe that SDGs can serve as a platform to develop innovative and interdisciplinary program through the cooperation of various colleges, where their faculty members may engage with the same SDG through the different approaches. And that is the conclusions that I would like to deliver to every one of you. So this is the final figures you can see. Implementation, software, and the infrastructure. You have to put all the things together as a system in order to get the job done. And that's it for my presentation. And once again, thank you very much for inviting me to give this talk. And I would like to see you everyone
for sustainable development. Our third speaker for today is the chair of the Association of Professional Futurists, or APF, the largest professional foresight association in the world, with a membership of 600 professional foresight practitioners and experts in over 60 countries. He's the chair of the Millennium Project Philippine Node, a global foresight research think tank, and UNESCO chair candidate in anticipatory governance and regenerative cities. He has established himself in international futures thinking networks such as in Asia Pacific and Europe. He is the founder, executive director, and chief futurist of the Center for Engaged Foresight, a strategic foresight and futurist innovation firm based in Manila, as well as co-founder, vice president, and chief futurist of the Philippine Futures Thinking Society, the only professional membership association of futurists and foresight practitioners in the Philippines. He has served as a senior futures consultant and advisor for the Asian Development Bank, the Rockefeller Foundation, East-West Center Leadership Academy, UNICEF, UNDP, UNESCO, UNFCCC, UNHCR, and a research person for the Philippine Senate Committee on SDGs, Innovation, and Futures Thinking, the National Academy of Science and Technology, DOST Picard, CHED, among so many others. Currently a PhD in Future Studies candidate and scholar at the University of Sunshine Coast, Australia, and the Government of Australia. It is my pleasure to welcome our speaker for an introduction to strategic foresight and futures thinking, Professor Sherman O. Cruz.
It's a real treat and honor to be with you today as we celebrate the World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. As a futurist, engineering and sustainable development are two futurist topics that are really close to my heart. And before anything else, I would like to thank our dear President, Dr. Tirso Ronquillo, for inviting me to be your research person and share some thoughts and insights from a decade of experience working and providing futures capacities for engineers and technology developers all over the world. And of course, Senator Pia Cayetano for her amazing work and commitment to advance foresight in education, public policy, and governance. And of course, last but not the least, the Philippine Futuristic Thinking Society, which I am a co-founder and currently its chief futurist for the amazing job and networking and actions that they have put into to create an ecosystem of futures and foresight practitioners in the Philippines. The effort and the achievements of the Philippine Futures Thinking Society has, in fact, inspired the world from the US to Europe and China, including Taiwan and other continents, were inspired by the story of the Philippine Futures Thinking Society's approach to Hiraya foresight. Now, we all know that our deep-seated desire to improve our lives has been burning for centuries. Everyone wants to make our or their lives better, our health, our well-being, and the world that we live in a little bit, if not, I would say, exceedingly better. According to the futurist and engineer John Brown, all these wishes and dreams might not have come true or might not have become possible without engineering. In his exact word, he said that all these things become possible through engineering. That without it, we cannot make progress. I would say that engineers are stewards of the future. Their imaginings and the values that they advance, which is to build and invent the future, have impacted for many centuries, and more recently has become more impactful in the way we work and in the way we live today. Engineering is everywhere, and their influence and impact, while more often than not easily overlooked, engineers and engineering had made our lives richer, wiser, more resilient, more sustainable, and happier. In this presentation, I would like to accentuate technology foresight, engineering, and breakthrough innovations in futures thinking. The unicorns of Silicon Valley, Google and Facebook, are turning 22 and 17 years of age, respectively, this year. And the organization that I currently chair, which is, of course, as you can see here, the Association of Professional Futurists, is as well turning 20 this year. If you come to think of it, this American global based organizations are still teenagers. But then this also brings into view that the technological aspect of the future comes in like a tsunami of change. They grow and impact the world exponentially. But then, despite the exponential rise of emerging technologies in the last 10 years, the socialized aspect or the social aspect that incorporates the view of sustainability and technological development from adoption, understanding, ethics, and acceptance is something that we need to better understand and appreciate, given that the sustainability aspect of technological development is unfortunately slow and that uncertainty surrounds the emergence and adoption of technological development. But then, despite the societal and structural challenges of technological progress, there are breakthroughs. And I would like to call in this question now to all of you and perhaps reflect on some possible answers. Are breakthroughs in both technological and engineering development closer than we normally perceive or imagine it to be? Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in the 1870s, but the first international phone call was made in 1881. Public acceptance of the telephone came about in the 1920s. Imagine that. It took half a century for the public to embrace the telephone. The automated teller machine was introduced in the late 1960s, but it took off globally in the 1990s. From its infancy stage to public acceptance, it would take around 30 to 40 years for the world to embrace this new technology. In hindsight, it appears that the adoption and acceptance of technological and engineering innovation takes time to occur. We've seen this in many foresight cases and future studies about technological change and weak signals of change. That emerging issues such as technological innovation may require some time for it to become truly disruptive. Malcolm Gladwell perhaps was right to assume that while technological aspect of the future comes into our attention too quickly, the social aspect of technology may take forever to evolve. But the point in doing foresight is to spot emergence even before they occur as an opportunity or as a problem. But then, recently with the pandemic, we've seen a lot of improvisation and experimentation going around all over the world. Suddenly, those emerging technologies, tools, and thinking platforms that were previously anticipated or perhaps predicted to occur in the next 20 or 30 years have, not surprisingly, became the subject of today's technological innovation, adoption, and investments. The question is, how might we be able to better anticipate deeper? Can anticipation or futures thinking help engineers build wiser with foresight and better understand the social and sustainability dimensions or impacts of technology or engineering innovations? 3 decades ago, there was this psychologist, Canadian psychologist named Philip Tetlock, who was curious and who did challenge the view that experts are good at predictions. To test this assumption, for 20 years, he immersed himself in the largest prediction study ever conducted. He gathered experts from a wide variety of fields, including engineering or engineers of all sorts, and gathered an amazing 82,000 predictions about the future. Then thereafter, he tabulated the result, and his conclusion was experts were terrible at predictions. But then, after sorting his data, he discovered that there was a small group of experts who were a little bit better at making predictions. And who were they? According to the psychologist Tetlock, they were the people who were 1, open-minded, 2, who were willing to change course, 3, and who were willing to admit their mistakes. In a nutshell, according to the Tetlock, they were the generalist, not the specialist. The generalists have the ability to look at things and stuff from a number of multiple perspectives, that they are not committed to a particular way of knowing reality. Their asset was, according to Tetlock, as far as the generalist is concerned, and I would say the futurist, was their endless sense of questioning, curiosity, and wonder. Their resource was their imagination and the future as an asset to innovate today. Remember the Wright brothers, who invented and flew the first flying object? They were inspired by a helicopter toy that was little more than a stick that probably cost around 50 cents, in dollar, of course. The brothers were self-taught engineers. In fact, they were bicycle mechanics. But they were brave in that they did not only invented something that could fly, they learned through experimentation. They built their capability, their skills to fly, despite the risk that any one of them could get killed in the process. They knew that if they would fly the plane that they invented themselves, that it could kill them. But it was through their intense concentration and ridiculous drive, intense curiosity, and imagination, coupled with extreme bravery, to prototype, simulate, test, design, and redesign, and evolve the first flying machine. And the rest is, as we know it, was the future. But where does breakthrough innovation in technological development and engineering design begin? It begins in our imagination. And imagination is the currency of breakthrough futures thinking and technology foresight. It reminds me of the story in a dialogue between Cheshire the cat and Alice in the movie Alice in Wonderland. Cheshire Cat once told Alice that imagination is the only weapon we have in the fight against reality. But then, how do we actually leverage in our imagination as an asset and resource and tool to innovate and change today? First, we must be conscious and we must be aware of our capacity to anticipate the future and anticipate emergence. We must learn how to use the future as an asset, resource, and tool to innovate today. Second, we must be conscious of our anticipatory capacities and build our anticipatory capabilities through futures literacy. We must learn how to rigorously imagine, rigorously reflect, think, and ask and wonder, what are the sources of my imagination? We must be conscious about what and why we imagine things and stuff. This is particularly true in design, whatever that might be. Third, what are the values that informs my dreaming? I would like to repeat it again. What are the values that informs my dreaming and my belief of what's possible? Am I willing, or are we willing to be brave like the Wright brothers and change the course when necessary? It has been said by a philosopher futurist, Spanish philosopher futurist, that life is a collision with the future. When we innovate or invent something or design something that is novel, transformative, and radical, it implies that we are colliding with the future. Am I willing to see the world from a different standpoint? Am I committed to a sustainability ethics or a sustainability worldview? Can I see the potential that others couldn't see? The future, my friends, is an agenda for knowledge and action. Are we brave enough to create the change that we wish to see today? Do we have the ability to change? For breakthrough engineering and technological progress to occur, two things are imperative or essential. One, improvisation. Improvisation is like a puzzle. You figure it out once you understand how it works. Second, experimentation. According to Jeremy Gotch, a futurist, experimentation is subtle. We must learn how to be patient as new ideas and breakthroughs takes time, as they are seemingly, especially when they are seemingly absurd, ridiculous, and different. But then we must also learn how to spot the subtle clues that hint toward great and extraordinary breakthroughs. How? Let us try to view the things and stuff that we intend to build from the outside. Distance yourself or ourselves a bit in order for you to see the horizon of possibilities, as it can be difficult to see the potential in something new when we're too invested in our projects and designs. So, distance yourselves a bit in order for you to see the horizon of multiplicity, of alternative future worlds, of alternative design, or speculative design. Distance yourself from the project that you are currently in. But then, how do you use foresight or futures thinking to propel breakthrough engineering and technology foresight? One, as a capacity and a capability in the context of futures literacy, we must learn how to reveal the future, reveal what is obvious, reveal the low-hanging fruit, reveal what are the future that we are consciously knowing about. Once the future is revealed, we must ask ourselves, is this the design or engineering breakthrough or engineering idea that I want? If the answer is no, or even yes, then perhaps we must still learn how to reframe it. Because I think in the context of design, reframing is a very critical, important element of speculative design, which is, of course, reframing things, reperceiving things and stuff from the future and trying to understand and reflect and make sense. How might it look like? Or how might a product or service or a design evolve in the future with some drivers of change in mind? So reframing is the process of rigorous imagination. You just don't imagine for the sake of it, but rather you question the way you imagine in things, and from that constant questioning, we reframe the future. Third, we must learn how to consolidate the insights, because futures thinking and foresight conversation is not just about anticipating the future, but if done in a way that immerses people into the process of rigorous imagining, we generate insights. And once we generate the insights, we consolidate them and develop new narratives of the future, whether it is engineering or technology or planning, strategy development, and public policy. But then it doesn't end with consolidating insights. You must learn how to determine, okay, what are the essential and critical next steps that I can do on Monday morning to enable me to create the future that I want in 2040 and act on them today. That leads to the next point that I would like to accentuate, which is learning how to act from the future. And of course, it begins with building a culture of smart and clever foresight. That is, how are you going to do and build a clever and smart foresight within, for example, in Batangas State University or in the engineering community? One is that we must train our brain and create an organizational neural network to be more creative. Prioritize the pursuit of new ideas and insights. If you want to engineer the world of tomorrow, I think that is the way to go. Prioritize the pursuit of new ideas, imaginations, and insight. Learn and map what kind of innovator and engineer you are, like asking yourself, what's your future or innovation archetype? Are you the dreamer? Are you the lover? Are you the explorer or the navigator? Or are you the engineer who envisions the future of human civilization? What's your primary and secondary trait as a breakthrough engineer and innovator? But then, of course, as people try to explore ways by which they can break through in the future, is that you can also perhaps, if we are immersed into the process of foresight, help us leapfrog into the future. You have to note that innovation requires us to have a long, hard, and deep look about the future. Live in the present, but do look far, far ahead into the future. And by looking far ahead into the future while we live in the present, it enables us to see the insight that perhaps might excite us to create authentic, sustainable, and novel innovation. Why? Because according to Bob Johansen, he said that once you see an insight, you cannot unsee it. And thus, if you cannot unsee it, you must act, you must make, you must improvise, experiment, and succeed. Second, and this is the final point that I would like to make before I end this speech, is that build a foresight-driven ecosystem in the university. Because breakthroughs begin with a culture of foresight and anticipatory thinking. Must learn how to use the future today. Develop new leadership skills, network, and futures literacies. And by doing that, I'm pretty quite optimistic, learning from my experience, and as the chair of the Association of Professional Futurists and the chief futurist of the Philippine Futures Thinking Society, Batangas State University and the Engineering Society of the Philippines, through futures literacy, can bounce forward wiser and engineer the future better for sustainable development. Again, thank you very much, and I wish everyone a nice day and Hiraya Manawari.
Thank you so much, Professor Sherman O. Cruz. Thank you for introducing us to futures thinking and strategic foresight. May we use these skills in pursuit of sustainable development. At this point, let's see how the rest of the world is celebrating. I invite everyone to watch this video about the highly anticipated launch of World Engineering Day 24 Hours Live, the first ever 24-hour live broadcast of Global UNESCO Day.
World Engineering Day is thrilled to announce the highly anticipated launch of World Engineering Day 24 Hours Live. This is the first ever 24-hour live broadcast of a global UNESCO Day. This studio-produced live broadcast will feature World Engineering Day 2022 around the globe to see how engineers across the world are celebrating and being recognised for their great work. Starting from Australia, ending in Costa Rica, featuring everything in between. Our program will hit 8 major regions over the 24 hours. The live stream will showcase high-profile local events, interviews with ambassadors, and discussions on key engineering topics. It will also spotlight live social media activity, events, and so much more. Head to worldengineeringday.net for more information.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the opening of the 3-day series, Engineering Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, the BatStateU celebration of the 2022 World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. See you again on March 7 for the Forum on the Advancement of Engineering Collaborations and Innovations for Futures Thinking, and the launching of our very own Sustainability, Innovations, and Futures Thinking Hub. And on March 8 for the WED 2022 Hackathon and BatStateU Engineering Student Innovations.